Welcome to Law Enforcement Coaching. Meet the Coach with founder Tammy Sharp. Today we are speaking with one of our master coaches, Ken Koch. Get to know a little about Ken and see if he may be the right coach for you.
Hi, Ken. Thank you for being here today. The intention of this is just so that when clients come onto the site, they want to get to know which coach to choose. So this is just a little snippet into who you are. So with that, tell them about yourself.
Okay, well, great. Thanks, Tammy, for having me. My name is Ken Koch. I'm one of the coaches here at Law Enforcement Coaching, working with Tammy and Chris and all the other on the team. I've been doing that for almost 2 years now with this group, off and on, and I'm really enjoying it. The reason I became a coach, quite honestly, I'm a retired law enforcement professional. Spent 35 years and counting. I retired from the sworn side back in 2018 as a chief. And I'm now serving as a civilian director for a regional training center here in northern Colorado. So I am still in the profession. I'm just on the civilian side now. The course of my career, spent 23 years in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is in northern Arizona up in the mountains. I was in Taos, New Mexico, serving as a chief for a little while there. Tried retirement the first time back in 2014. We returned to Arizona with my wife, who is also a retired sheriff's deputy. So I'm also the spouse of a law enforcement professional. Went to work for Gunsight Academy, where I still teach as a professional law enforcement or firearms instructor, both for military, civilian, and law enforcement professionals. And last but not least, I'm also the son of a police officer. So I know what it's like to be that kid at home who knows dad was supposed to be home at midnight, and here it is 1:30 and he's still not home, and the nerves start getting up and you can't go back to sleep. And, just as one example of what some law enforcement families go through. So law enforcement's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. It's permeated every aspect of my life. And being that I'm now done on the sworn side, I still want to give back to those folks, men and women who are still serving, both on the civilian and the sworn side. And if my experience and background can help someone achieve a goal, overcome an obstacle, or just reframe their current view of their profession or their personal life, that's what I live for, to be honest with you. It just makes me feel so good to help people.
There's so much. You are such a wealth of knowledge. We love having you as part of our team. And I don't even know, I'm like, okay, we could talk about retirement, but I'm gonna pivot a little bit. So I'm going to come back around to retirement, but what kind of guidance or advice would you give to the rookies, the people that are just kind of starting out in this day and age? What would you give them?
God, there's so much to talk about, Tammy, as you know. I mean, professionally, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out personally in their personal life and taking care of what really matters, that being family, retirement? I was very blessed, quite honestly, to have a coach. And this was back in the late 80s, early 90s. He wasn't a coaching me. He was a mentor more than anything. He was a first line supervisor that I was lucky enough to work for. He sat me down early on in my career and talked about retirement. And I was thinking, why are we talking about this? You're talking 20 plus years down the road. He talked extensively about the importance of putting money away, starting a 401k, getting your finances in order and getting that rolling so that over those 20 years, you get to the end of your career and you're in a position where you actually get to go enjoy life and retire, right? If you want to, or go work and do something else that you really love doing, which is still being retired as far as I'm concerned. The job I'm in now, I don't work a day in my life, right? But my wife and I are very blessed because we got those people giving us that advice early on. When we did reach retirement, we were in a good financial position. The one mistake that I made that I would certainly talk to anybody about is the importance of having your plan together for your insurance coverages and all those kind of things, because that one kind of bit me when I tried retirement the first time.
Yeah, insurance that's one where I'm like, I'll save my opinions of my soapbox tangent for another time, but that is definitely something that everybody needs to kind of look into for that. And I have my opinions. But then, so you said you retired once and that didn't stick. So you've retired and you're living the life. You're having fun post retirement. But what kind of advice or guidance would you give to people? Because that's one of the things that we hear a lot of. You know, some of the older generation are like, "Oh, coaching, I wish I would have had that in the beginning of my career, and this is great, but I don't necessarily think it pertains to me." But if they're coming close to retirement or they're already retired, even, um, there's an identity piece to that. It's like, who are you afterwards? So, what were some of the things that you found that really worked for you? I mean, you were blessed to have a mentor back in the day. A lot of people don't have that. But what are some of the things that you've kind of learned through your retirement process?
Well, I think for most of us early on, the profession is a calling, right? We all know, we say that all the time, that you're kind of born to this profession. People don't come to this profession who are simply looking for a paycheck. And if they do, they usually don't stick around long, right? This is something that requires something deeper, right? An appreciation for something more than self, serving something greater than self. We all know that. And over time, if you're not careful, that becomes part of your identity. We get so buried in being a police officer instead of just doing the work of a police officer or a sheriff's deputy that we lose sight of the fact that at the end of the day, it is still just a job. Now, having said that, a lot of times that's a hard thing for law enforcement professionals to say because it's a calling. Well, yes, it is, but it's also just a job. It doesn't define who you are. And when you lose sight of that fact, that's usually when you become overinvested in the job. You lose your work-life balance. You start listening to the portable radio at home on your days off because you want the excitement, you want the rush. Um, and then before you know it, you're using the term, I'm burned out, right? You're kicking that around and you can't figure out how you got there. And usually that's when you need someone to step in, like a coach who's been there, done that, who's lived that firsthand. A psychologist or a psychiatrist can't talk to you about those kind of things, not because they don't understand them, but because they don't live the level of stress that we experience. They don't get to see the horrific scenes that we get to see and that we wake up to nightmares of sometimes, right? They don't get to experience the terrific highs when you actually are aware that you just saved someone's life. Those things are a roller coaster like no one else experiences in this world. And unless you've walked in those shoes, it's a little hard to talk to people about it, let's be honest. And that's really why I love being a coach with this company, with law enforcement coaching, because we do that every day with folks who really need someone to talk to and who are so appreciative once they put their toe in the water and they give it a shot. Every client I've had, I just absolutely loved the experience and came back for more.
I love all of that. I love yes. I mean, we love our clinical mental health professionals. Like we refer to them when needed, but that cultural competence, that cultural experience, that's one of the reasons that we created this company is because that was kind of the missing piece where unless you've been there, how can you yeah, we could come in and teach from theory all day every day, but what is actually going to be applicable and work. And I love you've had so much experience and you're such a great coach in helping shift people's perspective, look at things a little bit different. And one of the things that I've really been emphasizing when we've been doing training, burnout is not a diagnosis. It is not the end all be all. We all burn out. And yes, in this career and in life, there's going to be periods where you burn out, but that doesn't have to be the defining moment of your life. If you have a coach or whatever your support system is to help you navigate, have some self awareness so that you can be like, okay, I'm experiencing this. Let's move through it. And how do we move through that? And all of your experience and your pitfalls and your triumphs helping someone else, hey, have you tried it this way? I absolutely love that. So just to wrap this up, because this is just a really brief little snippet, is there any other parting words that you would have for anybody that's looking at trying to select a coach?
Our bios are pretty thorough, and I think most of us we wrote our bios from the standpoint of these are the people or the experiences certain clients are going through that I feel I can be the most help with. So I'd say be very selective on the coach that you start with. Make sure it's somebody that you feel like you can establish a rapid rapport and trust in, because that's key, right, to our being successful. And again, we define success in the manner you define it as the client. We don't define these things for you. We help you find it. We help you find it with the background and experience that we bring to the table. You'll notice in my bio, I talked a little bit about how would you take the opportunity if you could go back and talk to your younger self and give yourself advice based on the life experience you've had since that time. And I think every one of us would say, yeah, absolutely. I would love to have that opportunity. Would I change anything that I've done in my life? Oh, maybe not. But at least having someone you trust, right? We can trust ourselves, who has more experience than we do. That's a huge benefit, and that's a huge value, right? To have in your back pocket when you are really striving for that dream, trying to overcome a huge obstacle, whether it's achieving promotion, achieving a transfer to another department, whatever it is for you, taking care of your family life at home and getting more work-life balance, all of those things. It's nice to have somebody in your corner, and that's what we do.
You know, this weekend I was working in my garden and I had just crabgrass everywhere and I was out there hand picking it. Like, I'm going to pull it up by the roots. And I finally gave up and I went to the store and I got some tools and I came back and I had like tools that I could dig in and get to the root of it. And it was so funny because I was like, oh my gosh, life is so much easier when you have the right tools. And I instantly was like, oh, coaching. I was like, makes life easier. You can do it the hard way, or you can have the right tools in your back corner. So thank you so much for being here. For anybody that's watching this video, you can book a session with Ken. Just scroll down to the booking calendar on the website. If you have any questions, you can reach him directly or you can reach out to us. We can always refer other coaches, and you can work with any and all coaches. So there's no limit for that. So thank you again, Ken, for being here. And that is our video. Awesome.
Thank you.